Hi friends, this is Caitlin. Welcome to my channel or welcome back. I am sharing a very different card for me today. I know I've been using the Copic airbrush a lot-ish lately. Maybe not a lot, but more frequently. It's just because it's still new and exciting, and I really thought it would be a fun way to try out making some Northern Lights with this really cool stamp set from Sweet November Stamps. So this year was a big year for Northern Lights, and I absolutely love them. I got to see them in Ohio. I got to see them here in Delaware this fall, and they're the kind that you can see like only through your phone. I'm so excited for one day to be able to go with my husband or my family to, Minnesota or where North Dakota, one of those places up there where you can like see them for real. I know you can probably see them even better internationally, but so I was just, as soon as I saw this stamp set, I knew that I had to use it. And if you've been here before, you might know that skies are very intimidating for me when it comes to coloring. So I thought, now that I have this cool Copic airbrush system, I want to try to use it to do these Northern Lights. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk you through it, and I am not teaching you how to do it. I am just sharing what I did because it is still very new to me, and I learned some things along the way that I would do differently. So this is my inspiration with the little pink on the bottom, purple to blue, and then the really pretty like green and teal Northern Lights. So I'm starting with my pink. I took some like post-it tape, and I tore it in half so that I would have kind of a rough mountainscape look to the top. We're going to turn those into mountains. And I am going in with the airbrush, and I'm starting with the lighter pink at the horizon, moving up into an RV. Then I'm going in with some BV to start purpling everything up, adding some color below and above those Northern Lights. Then I'm going to bring in some dark blue as well. And the thing I wish I had done differently was kind of mask off the Northern Lights. Amy Young, who is the illustrator for Sweet November Stamps, did a version of the same stamp set, and she airbrushed as well, and I got to watch it. And so just from that, I've learned some tips. But I do think this one turned out very cool. I still really like it. But next time I would mask my Northern Lights so that they didn't get as much blue in them or the dark. But it's still cool. So I just kind of took my time going back and forth between the purples and the blues, building up that color, trying to go in like softer layers, and then also trying to just kind of build up the darkness around the upper outer edges. I had to bring in some more of that pink because I felt like it was getting lost. And then here's where I'm bringing in some BG teal colors, and I'll also bring in some YG like limey greens, and those are going to help to kind of waken and freshen everything up, and that will give it that really cool pop of color. So I was playing around with adding in some like lines and shading with a regular full stick Post-it, and I don't think it hurt anything, but I don't think it really added anything either. So I just left it in so that I could tell you that I didn't find that it made a huge difference, but it's probably also because of the colors that I was using and the amount of color that was already down on the paper. But you can see here I'm going back in to add some shading without it too, and it looks the same. It looks the same. Here's where I'm bringing in those kind of lime green pops, and I do really think that that extra glow helped to make these stand out more. And then to darken everything up, you can't have the bright, fun lightness without having some dark. Otherwise, your light won't look very light. So I brought in some black, I brought in some super dark blue, and Here's where I started to try to kind of darken up right under those lights, and this would have been a lot more effective if I had actually just masked them. So I will be playing with this stamp set again in the future because I just love it. But there are some things I'll do differently. If you'd like to see version 2.0, let me know in the comments and I'll make sure that I record it next time. So to finish up the sky, I'm going in with some of my Dr. Peach Martin's Bleed Proof White and a tiny bit of water on a teeny tiny little brush. And I'm just tapping that on to create some stars in the sky. I just thought this was so pretty. I didn't want to overdo it and have any big splotches. And when we remove the tape, you can see that really cool mountainscape that's created from that torn tape. I have some natural looking mountains without me having to do any of the work myself. So I put my kind of horizon line tape back in place. This was very unnecessary. The marker bled right through the tape. Next time I would just sketch it in myself. But it's okay. So to create my mountains, I wanted these to look very dark versus the snowy kind of flat. I don't know if it's ice or like a frozen over lake that I made. I don't know. But I wanted the mountains to look very dark in comparison. So I'm going in with some super dark grays first and deepening up the area where the mountains meet the ground, that horizon line. And I'm just kind of adding my color down towards the ground and kind of flicking it upwards. Then I'm going in and just adding some texture to start breaking up some of that color on the highest kind of peaks of those mountains where there would be shadows or kind of snow, like facing away from these northern lights, and that pink on the, well, it's not, I mean, it is the horizon, right? Hopefully you know what I mean. Then I brought in one shade lighter in my cool gray and brought that color right up to that top edge. So just leaving that little sliver of white. That's going to be our highlight, where that pinky light is kind of just reaching over on our little snowy peaks. And you could leave some of this white if you wanted to, but in my mind, it's all snowy. So I didn't go for that. I just brought in that even one shade lighter and just shaded that top section so that it still looks very truly highlighted. I use that same gray marker to start mapping out my shadows on the ice. We'll just say it's on the ice, on the lake, of where those mountains would be casting a shadow down onto the ground. So then I blended that out a little more. We're going to darken these up in a little bit, but I decided it would be better to start lighter and then bring in more color as I went, instead of going too crazy to begin with and not being able to take any away. So I'm going in with my C5, and then I realized that wasn't going to be dark enough and brought in some C7 under my little polar bear. We'll blend that out. You'll see that I start adding in an N3 into this cool gray combination. That's only because my cool gray C3 was out of ink. So I had to make a quick game time decision. And so I just brought in my neutral 3 and it was fine. So I'm also starting to bring in some of that C5 to just break up all of this white space, adding in some more of that darker gray on the outer edges and kind of just bringing some streaks across our ice. I wanted to make sure it wasn't all just gray because there's so much color going on at the top of the card and the scene. I didn't want to have no color at the bottom. So I did bring in some BG11 and I believe BG10 in a minute, and we'll start kind of shading with that as well. This is also when I brought in more of that N3 and really started adding color, because again, if there's no shading and shadow for a night scene, it's just going to look really weird and the white won't look bold, like it won't stand out in a good way because there aren't any shadows. It'll just kind of look washed out. For my little polar bear, I wanted him to appear kind of that like white tan. I prefer to go with a warm gray for my polar bears because polar bears have that kind of yellowy undercoat in real life. And so I like how a warm gray kind of gives that same feel. He's facing the light, so his back would be in a ton of shadow. So I really tried to not be nervous to bring in a good bit of those darker markers, especially on that left-hand side, but still leaving some space for like a true highlight right around the edges where that little bit of light would be casting a glow on him. And this is just so cute. The way he's sitting and looking up is so sweet. I really just love this whole stamp set. There's a couple other, there were like some Yetis and penguins that go with this one too. But this bear just has a special place in my heart. He's so cute. I also went in with that W00 to blend out on like those very little outer edges, again, to make sure it was a very clear highlight. And I'm going to use this deckled edge die from Hello Bluebird. I don't even know if they make it anymore, but it's nice to have the little kind of ripply edges. And this is going to give me a nice little mat to put behind my scene. And I wasn't sure what kind of background, like color I was going to end up using, but I love where this ended up going. So to help my Northern Lights stand out a little extra, I also decided to go in here with a white gel pen and kind of add some streaks. They're really just lines in between and up against some of the black stamped lines, just to help kind of lighten everything up and give a little more movement to the stamp. Because these have those beautiful ripples and the way that my shading turned out, I felt like they still looked a little dark and I didn't want it to look super muddy. I also didn't want my white to be super bright and solid white. I wanted it to look more of like a glow or a haze. So you can see once I mark a little, I'm gently swiping my finger over the white gel pen, and that's just going to kind of swoop it up a little bit and soften everything. So then it was time to put my sentiment on my card. And so I decided to go for this one, which is from a different Sweet November stamp set. It says it's the season of magic and wonder. And I'm stamping that in a, I think, super dark blue. And I just thought that it was the perfect companion to how pretty and magical the sky is in this card. I wanted to bring in some glitter, but I decided that a full card of glitter was too much glitter. So I am making a tiny little mini mat to go right behind the kind of deckled edges with this really pretty silver. And then I'm going to bring in some black cardstock, which is going to be the main 5.5 by 4.25 panel that will put all of this onto a card base. So I'm going to add my glitter to my black cardstock first. Then I will add my colored scene on top of that. And I made sure that I was using liquid glue on top of the glitter because at least with this glitter paper, which is from like Michael's or something, the tape runner doesn't stick. So if you're going to use glitter paper, make sure you play around with your adhesives so that you know what is going to work or not when it comes to putting your card together. So that is my fun Northern Lights card all finished. I'm so happy with this one. I'm sorry it took an extra couple days to get out to you guys, but I love you so much. I'll see you back here soon. And until next time, happy crafting.